let's come back to that conversation that you triggered a lot of keywords there. So my question is, what does a healthy brain look like, right? Because you said people come to your lab to scan. So if I come to your lab, I scan my brain and I say, okay, maybe there is an imbalance of alpha, beta, theta. Now you should give me a goal. What should be the balanced brain look like? So what is that?
Beautiful question, right? I mean, every brain must be healthy and should be healthy. That's my blessings and sort of my wish, I would say, my prayers. So let's understand the brain scanning a little better. Now we have multiple ways in which we can scan the brain. The very easy method is to use something called EEG. I
Okay.
have an ECG for the heart. Most people would have seen the ECG. Same way, when I'm thinking, I'm producing a little electrical activity. And that electrical activity can be captured in an EEG, electroencephalogram. So we just put a little helmet and then the electrical activity comes in. We take into the lab. We process it through a special software which our lab has built. And then we bring out what are the elements of alpha, beta, theta, delta. Now, where exactly this wave should be, that is the most important thing that we look at. I'll come back to that, but also there are other ways such as where is the blood flowing more. That is another way to look at it. There's another way called functional MRI, but obviously you need to get into an MRI gantry and it's a little complex. There is PET scan, there is FNIRS, multiple methods to look into the brain. When I'm talking about the brain scan, I'm talking of this QEEG or quantitative electroencephalogram. It just sounds a little fancy, but actually it's very interesting and super, super simple to understand. In my front portion of the brain, when I'm thinking, I need a little bit of beta, which is the fast rhythm. At the back portion of my brain, I need a very slow sinusoidal brain wave called alpha. And I need a little bit of theta also posteriorly to keep me calm or in a trance state, a little bit of, less, with a less reserve, I can perform better. And our lab has been studying something called the peak performance.
Okay.
So people who are optimally using their brains, and we had the fortune of scanning some of the top brains, such as one guy was a parachute jumper, 27,000 jumps and no single accident. We had a person who could remember 100 memory items all at once. We call it Shatavadhan, in our Indian beautiful tradition. We had a leader who is currently one of the leaders in United Arab Emirates. We had a person who has, I think, one of the top records of, she stood on Burj Khalifa. So these are all the people whom we bring to the lab and we study to see what is special in their brains, right? And there are three key elements what we find. The beta, yes, of course. The alpha, yes, of course. The theta, yes, of course. What we see is both the brains are synchronously firing. So both the brains have equal sort of a firing. They talk to each other appropriately. The prefrontal cortex are also symmetrically firing. And all the brain waves are exactly in the position where it should be. For example, I have beta at the back. What will happen? I'll be anxious. I'll constantly be worrying. And if I do not have a well functioning prefrontal cortex, let us assume that there is a very slow wave which is happening in the prefrontal cortex, then obviously my discrimination is not going to be good. I cannot rationalize. I cannot think straight, let's put it that way. So every single ailment or illness, or I would say dis-ease, has certain signature patterns. So these signature patterns allow us to understand how is the brain functioning. Now, if you do not produce alpha, and we were talking about this day audit, people should do their day audit and understand, and that's why certain cultures, I love it. They pray 5 times, right? And we used to have that Sandhya Vandana in the evening. We used to have the Brahma Muhurat's puja, etc. and all. Why was that? It was very scientific. You close your eyes and you generate this alpha. And more practice and exercise allows you to shift from relaxed state to active state. So relaxed to active, active to relaxed. If you do not allow these brain rhythms to be modulated, then you do not have that when you need them.
Okay.
So the idea is exercising them, right? So these are certain signature patterns that when you come in, we do it as we call QEEG. Of course, we also look at certain cognitive parameters. How are you thinking? Speed of thinking, cognition, memory, attention, focus, mood, emotional regulation. So there are certain ways in which we map the entire thing and then say, hey, this is how your brain looks like. And next step, I think that is the most important step, right? If I have certain things which are not functioning well, what do I do about it? That is how we deal with every single brain. Not necessarily that you need to suffer from any illness, not necessarily that you have to have anxiety, depression, or stress, burnout. Even, let's say, for example, for me, I just wanted to increase my peak alpha to learn better.
Yeah.
As simply as that, So there are techniques or hacks, to increase or to modulate or to decrease, provided you understand it. That's all the rationale.
So, is it fair to say that, I'm not just throwing words here, to recalibrate my brain,
100%.
I can come to your lab?
Optimize it,
Okay.
upgrade it, we can have better versions of it, or recalibrate. That's a beautiful word, actually. And to also simply sometimes, understand it. What you can measure, you can manage.
Okay.
Let's give numbers to that.
Okay.
And once we have the number, we have the goal. Once we have the goal, we have the habit. Once we have the habit, it becomes our character. Once we have the character, it becomes our destiny. And that's how our life's outcomes come in. So it's beautifully, intricately linked.
So, I first understand with the evidence why certain things have gone wrong, and then I understand the what, and then you also prescribe the how to recalibrate it, right?
Absolutely.
And that is where the mantra comes in.
Mantra, meditation, breathing exercises, breathing techniques. It's a combination. But let's talk about mantra since you raised this about mantra. And I think you were talking to me off the studio about your chanting practice.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what were you doing?
So when I started learning Rudram, Rudram has two parts to it, which is Namakam and the Chamakam. So my master who was teaching me the Rudram, he told me that the Vedas are chanted in a certain way, which has got a lower note, the normal note, and the higher note. So he was very insistent that we have to chant it in that way, because that's how the Vedas are chanted. So that's how the tradition has been for so many years, and that tradition is still there. That the lower note, the normal note, and the higher note has to be chanted that way. So I asked him, why is it that you should chant it that way? He said, these are formed into packets, like the way the one verse is, that you say it in a certain way, and that verse is formed into a packets, and it is sent into the universe, and then you receive back whatever your intention is or whatever you want. It comes back in that form, but you have to send it in that waves, right? Then only it comes back to you. So that's what he mentioned it to me. It's like you transmit and then you receive.
Fantastic. So let's decode this. Very beautifully said. Let's decode this a little bit neuroscientifically, right?
Yeah.
Now, Sanskrit. Let's go back first to all these are chanted in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Sanskrit is called the mother language, right?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because Sanskrit is one language which gives to form. If you put a tonoscope, is a very simple instrument, you can build it at home also, a little balloon, and then you put a little bit of a mechanical pressure, and then you put a sound in it. You will see some forms or waves which are forming. Some of the tonoscopes in the Om, they have shown that it creates a Shri Yantra. So when you have a sound which is giving rise to a form, that is what I'm interested in, and that is what Sanskrit as a language is doing. Okay. Now the next question, so English, you just put any English this, or even you want to experiment it, you just say sa, 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 or s, and you say lum, lum, lum. There will be a very different feeling on the mind that you will get it. Every single sound, and that's why the notes, of the higher note or the lower note is a frequency.
Yeah.
It is creating some sound or some frequency which is now impacting your brain. Yeah. And I always get remembered of Dr. Emoto's experiments, right? Dr. Emoto from Japan has showed beautifully that if you take 2 bottles of water, in that one water you keep on talking bad words, you are a fool and you're not good, and in the other water you start giving love. You talk thank you, you're grateful, gratitude, and you see and study them in the microscope. The crystals are completely different in both. The crystals in the love is beautifully geometrically aligned, while the crystals in the hate and all is not aligned. Why is that happening? Because the water is taking that certain frequency. Now, remembering that we are 70% water, each cell has 70% water of protoplasm. So there is an impact of that frequency which is happening on my body, on my brain, and on my mind. Now, also when I'm intonating, because all the chanting, if you see, you see Vedic chanting, you see Rudram chanting, you see, for that matter, any chant, we take it. May it be Triambakam chanting or Gayatri mantra, it is said in a certain intonation. What is that intonation doing? When I'm intonating, what I'm really doing is activating a nerve called vagus nerve. Now, the rishis knew that, now the scientists are trying to figure that out, that vagus nerve is getting activated. What does that vagus nerve do? We have two systems in our body helping us. There is sympathetic system and parasympathetic system. Beautifully arranged and aligned systems. When I, let's say, assuming that there's a tiger over here, both of us will run, right?
Yeah.
That is the sympathetic system. The sympathetic system allows us to gather all the energy, to get all the blood flows, to quickly decide and to run. That is the sympathetic system. When I'm sitting here, I'm calm, I'm relaxed, all my functions are happening, my processes, metabolism is happening. That is my parasympathetic system, or the vagal tone. Vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body. Most people who are stressed, when we check in the lab, so we also do something called the ANS testing, or autonomic nervous system testing. Very simple testing, but amazing results. When you test people who are stressed, who are burnt out, they have a very high firing sympathetic system. The moment you bring the sympathetic down and parasympathetic up, you start becoming calm. You start feeling better. You start metabolically functioning better. So this vagal tone has been shown to be activated in these intonations. So if you were just flatly chanting, possibly the vagus nerve is not kicking in.
Yeah.
Obviously, the other question comes is, do I need to know the meaning of the mantra when I chant? Now, I have not studied Sanskrit, let's assume, so I'm not going to know the meaning. Or let's say in our Chinmay mission, we have a tradition of Gita chanting. So the competitions are between 3rd grade and 4th grade. Now, where is the question of meaning for them?
Yeah.
But they're still chanting, and they're chanting it in a particular method. There is a proper way to chant. Even that is enough, because now you're modulating your rhythms, you're modulating your frequencies to affect the brain and the mind. So it really does not matter. I mean, meanings are all beautiful as well. If you start to do with a meaning, now for example, I am a Gayatri Upasak, and if I start to bring in the Gayatri mantra with all the focus with the sun and, Gayatri Devi, and if I do it really well, my Purascharan or my practice, I think that will add a little flavor extra. But that does not mean that, I have to first learn all the meaning and learn Sanskrit properly and all. Just do it appropriately as prescribed, and you will still see the benefit. And that's why, it is very, very important that you do something, try to see the effect. Now, when you chant Rudram, what do you feel?
There are lots of things. I mean, multi-layers to it. Obviously, at the end of chanting it, I feel really in a state of, there's a lot of heat that gets generated in the body. It's like you feel very warm, definitely. And because the rigor of the chanting itself is, is there, because of you have to really focus and do the, Udata, Anudata and Swarita. That itself gives me, it's like almost like a gym. That, right? It's like you're focusing, you are doing that chant and all that. That's like a gym. So the satisfaction that after you do a workout is what I feel. And obviously that other things of because I also know some parts of the meaning of it, and I also focus on the divine on that, and I also set intent to it. I feel a certain happiness in doing that.
Beautiful. So what you are talking is all the right chemicals which are getting generated, right? Serotonin allows me to be happy. Dopamine allows me to have a reward. My DMT makes me feel dizzy and, having a nice, I think we are yet to talk about the psychedelics, but I think we will bring that up.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting and important. So all the right chemicals, all the right chemistry, the natural chemistry of my brain gets triggered. Number one, my parasympathetic system gets triggered. The frequency is allowing. Now, if I take him to the brain scanner, and then we see what happens over a period of time, his limbic system, and we talked about this emotional brain, which is always, about to be fired, triggered, that will be deactivated. So automatically all the stressors will come down. Automatically your prefrontal cortex will open up. There are people who say, oh, I get brilliant ideas, once I finish my practice. I get clarity over the thing that I was confused about, Suddenly all your relationships start to improve. Suddenly your health starts to improve. And even for that matter, dravya, what we call the finance, right? There are certain mantras chanted in a certain way allows you to have abundance. And that is not just voodoo, It has a science, because now it's not that, oh, there'll be a rain shower of all the money which comes in, People want all those extra effects. But actually what is happening is you start thinking straight. You get a better idea. You can promote yourself better. You can sell your product better. So all these are, so I say that, there is a chemical balance, electrical balance, psychological balance, physiological balance, and structural balance. So it is giving just multi-fold effects scientifically if we talk about it.
Wow. So then there are different types of mantras, right? I mean, Rudram is one Vedic mantra which is there. There are so many other things like Lalita Sahasranama, which many people chant together in a group. And there are, like you said, Gayatri mantra is there. So each mantra has a different effect on the brain, or is it the same?
Largely, most of the mantras do kind of the similar stuff. Everybody can activate the vagus nerve. The breathing is modulated. But in the prescription of the scriptures, and let's go back to the scriptures, because I don't understand mantras from that psycho-spiritual essence, but I understand it from the science. So let us assume that a scripture is prescribing a mantra for a certain illness. Please start doing that, because there would have been certain elements which are trying to modulate that particular illness. For example, you want your hormonal system to be balanced. Then possibly that mantra is trying to push your hormonal system into the balance. So very, very important that, and if you don't understand anything, I still say safely go back to Om. Om is the most fundamental frequency, and it has no religious connotations. That is the beauty of Om, right? Om is universal. Om is simple. A-U-M, the three frequencies are part of it. The way you speak, of course, would have a different effect. When you lengthen the O, you're activating. And when you lengthen the M, part of it, you're actually calming down or relaxing. So just go back to something simple. But going back to something simple is doing consistently as well. Sometimes, we get so attracted by doing complexly. If I tell you that, there are 15 steps into it, and then, 3 days you do this, and 4th day you don't do it, and then, you bring it, then you get excited. But simple things go a long way. So I have a little, I would say, acronym, and every single patient who comes to me in my clinic goes with this acronym. It's simply called movers. If you want to shift your rhythm of life, you want to shift your health, you want to shift your relationship, you want to shift abundance, whatever you want to shift, because these are the three common factors which most people get stressed about, right? And there was a big study which was done on this. The three stressors for most people were either relationship, money or work, and health. So when I say that, okay, these are the three things, just think, is there any fourth thing for you? Most likely it'll be a no. And most people unfortunately get stuck, wherever there is that pinna tak jata hai types. You're just stuck there. So you want to get out of it. So what is movers doing? Movers, M-O-V E-R-S. And I have a non-negotiable routine with this movers for myself. And I don't keep a fixed time, because I'm a practitioner, I'm a clinical neurologist. So I sometimes I'm in emergencies. So I don't get, hooked on to, oh, I should do it at this time or that time. I have to do it, period. Find the time, for the 24 hours. 24 hours is long enough to get at least 30 minutes of your time to do something which is valuable. M for meditation. O for me is ocean breathing, but any kind of one breathing practice, any pranayama that you choose. And unfortunately, the breath practice, that certain way it is being thrown is like some simple breath practice. Remember, it is the pranayama. It is about the vital force. So very, very, very important. V for visualization. Be very clear on where you're heading. Be very clear on what you want to do in life. Be very clear on what you're expecting out of life. And in each of the arenas, so visualization, and I'm a great believer in manifestation, not just simply that manifestation is some magic happening. Manifestation is that you are preparing your mind to attract the right opportunities. You're preparing your brain so that you go to the next level. So it's as simple as that. E for exercise. Now, I like Surya Namaskar. That is my favorite go-to, sun salutations. But pick up anything. At least I would say do some cardio. And of course, exercise has 4 different components. Balance, coordination, strength, and endurance. So you need to really mix and match all of this if you want to remain healthy physically. E for exercise, R for reading. Now, the first thing, I always tell people that the first thing they do in the morning, do an audit, what you do is straight away your mobile phone comes into your hand. You were in the deepest of delta, the brainwave which we have seen, which is you are sleeping. You go into a little trance state of theta and you wake up and straight away is beta. You start, all the news comes in. Yeah. There was a problem in this country. This is fighting, that is fighting. And what happened? Your brain straight away went from a slow rhythm to the most fast rhythm. And you're damaging it. You're hurting it. So the moment you get up in the morning is a time when you need to take it slowly. The moment you go to sleep is the time when you need to take it slowly. Because these are the natural states of the modulation of each of the brain waves. And this is what we mess up with. So I'm very, very particular. I never mess up with that morning routine. Waking up with an alarm is the most dangerous thing to do.
Okay.
Suddenly, right? You suddenly have that alarm bell ringing. You wake up, you have that beta firing. And what you're doing is you're not allowing these states to pass by. All the good ideas come in when you're just about to go to sleep or you're in the shower.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because you go into this theta. The state of theta allows you to think intuitively, allows you to get more ideas, allows you to be connected, attune communication. All this is not happening. So very important, E, exercise, R, reading. When you get up in the morning, put your phone aside, start reading something affirmative, something which is positive. And our mind is amazing, right? Mind likes to think negative. It's a Velcro to negative and Teflon to positive. So we have to really switch it. We really have to make it Velcro to positive. But it won't just happen, it will keep. And I always say, mind does its dharma. Its dharma is to distract you. And it is successful. But what is your dharma? What is your thing? You just need to observe that mind and control the mind. Otherwise, the mind will control you, right? So your job is to read affirmative, something positive. It may be just a paragraph. Doesn't really matter, right? And S, again, very, very important. That S is called scribing. Pull out anything which is negative, whatever you felt, whatever happened, whatever was there, catharsis. In medical language, we call it catharsis. Get it out, Don't even try to read back. Just remove it. So simple movers for few minutes can make a deep, fundamental change in the life.
Right. So do you agree to the habit building of 21 days is good enough?
So 21 days allows the brain to just get that little, flavor. That, this is something is changing. Then 66 days and 45 to 66, there's a little bit of a variable science in that. And then multiples of 2, 3, 5, etc. to build and consistently do a habit.
Okay.
But every brain is different. Every physiology is different. It all depends on where you're starting from. Some people quickly build the habit, which is amazing, right? And some people need that little bit of a slow this. And some people need nudging. Some people need accountability. And that is where group practice comes into play, right? Yeah. And that is the reason why we have built something called the Limitless Brain Club, because we want to integrate with each other. Number one, we want to be accountable for each other. We want to push each other because evolution or, getting onto this prefrontal cortex and having the best life possible. I strongly feel that, we have this Ferrari right here. It's a beautiful Ferrari and we still go from point A to point B few kilometers. It will be a disaster, if you have a beautiful, nice parked Ferrari and you use it only from going point A to point B a couple of kilometers. So we really have to use it well. And that is where groupthink comes into play.
Namaste. In today's tech world, we understand data networks, don't we? This phone is a receiver. We went from 2G to 3G to 4G and now to 5G and whatnot in the future. What does this mean? Do we see any change in the sky? We only receive better sound, better quality pictures, better downloads, better streaming, all these. the human body is also a receiver. You can unlock a whole new world of consciousness and excellence in your brain. That is, upgrade your brain from a draggy network to a super fast network. The open secret is habit building or practice or sadhana. We all live in the world of artificial intelligence. But if you train this machine to learn consistently, that will lead gradually into natural intelligence. You must have heard Dr. Sweta mention in this podcast how our own ancient Vedic wisdom can help and guide us here. How do we access and use this ancient technology? You can read the book, The Science of the Mantras by Om Swami. Or even better, download the Sadhana app built by Om Swami. With the Sadhana app, you can practice authentic mantra sadhanas and also get to know which sadhana to do when. Like any other stream of science or art, this technology of the mantras also can be explored, examined, practiced and mastered. What better way than the Sadhana app to do that? Sadhana app is completely free to download and use. Check the captions below for details of the app, download the app, start your first sadhana and see how your brain recalibrates gradually with time. The upcoming Ganesh Chaturthi is the perfect time for you to start your sadhana. Do Moola Ganesha sadhana only on Sadhana app, क्योंकि sadhana से संभव है. Thank you for watching the podcast so far. Please do continue watching it and please do like, share, comment and subscribe to Prana Stories. Namaste. So then I also want to ask two other things about two things, which is about DMT and the pineal gland, which is talked a lot in the social media circles. Can you just throw the light on that?
Yes, absolutely. So pineal gland and pituitary glands are amazing master glands for the body. Right now in pineal has been studied by Dr. Joe Dispenza and I think most of the other groups who have studied pineal gland. Where is the pineal? It is right behind. If I anatomically go to see, it is right. This is our intuition chakra or the Agna chakra, what we call it. It's just right behind. Now what happens is, it has a function to convert melatonin. Melatonin is one hormone which you need when you want to go to sleep. If people who are not able to sleep, they do not convert melatonin. So this particular pineal gland activation controls with the pituitary to convert melatonin into serotonin and multiple such substances such as DMTs and multiple other substances. What is it doing? It is allowing you to feel better, allowing you to feel calmer. It is allowing the activation of the prefrontal cortex. Eventually, everything is allowing you to balance the brain and have that prefrontal cortex activated. Now, people are talking about psychedelics, right?
Yeah.
People are talking about all the LSDs and all the, all marijuanas and then magic mushroom, and it used to give mystical experiences. And of course, it will give mystical experiences because now you have the prefrontal cortex, which is activated. But there is always a little connotation to that, right? All these chemical which you resort to and psychedelics is being studied right now in the field of psychology and psychiatry for treating certain problems, which is great, right? Controlled, obviously in microdosing, in a control setting. The doctor is obviously knowing the patient, etc. and all, but people just forget all that and then start doing the recreational stuff. Now remember that when you are adding a chemical to your brain, you're making these circuits change. And you are also having a side effect which can be played upon. So you don't know what will be the difference between the effect and the side effects. So sometimes these receptors, and most of these agents work on the serotonin receptor. It's 5-HT2A receptor which the brain actually has. And most chemicals work on that receptor. Now, serotonin is a happy chemical, so you will keep wanting it. But let's say, you keep on secreting serotonin and it's firing the receptors. At certain point, the receptors are tired. At certain point, the receptors finish, they die. So many down regulation, up regulation. So you essentially, I would call you're messing with it, you're just messing with it. While meditation is completely safe. The same effects. So there are a couple of papers which talks about having a transcendental meditation or mindfulness meditation. And there's also something called the eye mindful meditation, which means you're doing it distantly. You're doing it online, and you're doing it with, of course, a practitioner versus a psychedelic therapy. And what they have seen is this is super safe. You can't go wrong, right? You cannot go wrong. Of course, difficult because you have to consistently practice it. But, at what cost are we ready to change? So in the psychedelics, we're taking a shortcut, which at least, I think that's not what we should aim for. Anything which is damaging, anything which is bringing the receptors down, eventually you will bear the brunt of it.
Yeah. So there are these very natural psychedelics, which, I can speak from my own personal experience, is the plant medicine Ayahuasca, right? It helps in, obviously it gives you a trip, but then it is done in a very, very secure way, where there are these shamans who actually guide you to how to take it forward. It's not like you just microdose and take it and then you're on your own. It's not like that. There is a ceremony to it. There is a time when you do that plant medicine ceremony.
Absolutely. This is the key, right? You need to be psychologically safe. You need to be physiologically safe. You need to understand what can go wrong. You need to preempt what can go wrong, etc. So, people who get addicted, that this is exactly the reason, because, they do it the wrong way. And then, same chemical makes you addict. The same chemical damages you. The same chemical is giving you a beneficial effect. So it's all how it is done and the way you are approaching it as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that gives a very different feel altogether, because there are these shamans who take care of you. Whatever happens to you, they are there to take care of you. And there is this divine mother who is invoked. She is called as the Pachamama, which is the Mother Earth, basically. So they give all their allegiances to the Mother Earth, and they thank the plant first. They take permission from the plant. They make a wine out of that plant. It's a mix of, I don't know exactly the same thing. It's a mix, it's a mix that they create. And then is what you drink it, and then you set an intention, and then you go on that trip and you ask that question to the Divine Mother, and then she gives you a trip of certain things. And it's definitely not recreation. But my question is, the brain does get recalibrated in a certain way. Is that...
No, yes, of course, it does get recalibrated, because these are the chemicals which are making some changes in that, right? There is a limbic deactivation, exactly to the point of whatever we were discussing. So the emotional brain is sort of getting down, and all the subconscious fears or subconscious processes which are unresolved are coming up. Now you can watch it, rationalize it. You can get rid of phobias, etc. Even past life regression, for that matter. I was very, very happy to be learning from Dr. Brian Weiss, who has written many Life's Many Masters. So when I was a very critic neurologist who went and said, oh my God, I don't even remember what I ate yesterday, memory. And you're talking of past life. I mean, it's a voodoo for me. But I think what I understood, the principle is that you want to bring those subconscious memories. And he gave me an example that I want to get the file from the cloud and download it on the desktop and now work on the file. So it's as simple as that.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. So basically, ayahuasca is healing. They call Pachamama as a healer, basically. So whatever is your past traumas are, or the past generation, it is said that 7 generations behind and 7 generations forward, she has the power to heal.
Now, evidence for this would obviously be a big question mark, right? So you have to. So as scientists, what we do is, yes, we take the chemical, we study the effect of it, and then now psycho-spiritual benefits are only ones that are spoken about, right? So what you had an experience, for example, or an ex-person has a benefit, etc. This is how we collect the evidence. What changed? What happened? What was the thought process before? What was the thought process after? So that is how evidence can be built against a certain practice or for a certain practice. So
correct. Yeah.
I'm very new to this, so thank you for enlightening me on that.
Yeah, definitely where the place that I went, there is a person from the medical fraternity who is actually doing this. And then he gives us a lot of, I don't want to go into that right now, because there are integration sessions that happen every day. So it's like a 4-day kind of ceremony. So every day after the ceremony, they have these integration sessions where they sort of explain what exactly is happening in your brain.
So I think my message to everybody listening here is please go to the credible people.
Yeah, exactly.
Do not, I mean, I'm a great fan of experiments,
Yeah.
but do the experiments in controlled settings.
Right.
Do the experiments with the stalwarts or with the experts, you know.
Yeah,
do
yeah.
it with credible people. Do it with people who understand that science, who
Yeah.
has an experience of that science,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
Now, for me, it's been 30 years I've been dealing with medicine, or 30 years with, 15 close to years with the brain. So I understand what all can go wrong or what all can go right.
Yeah.
So I think experience has to marry evidence as well.
Right.
And that is the beauty of us practice, you know, otherwise it would be a robotic practice.
Correct.
Let's say a patient comes to me and then patient has certain problem and I go into my little robotic this and I say, okay, 2 medicines of this and 2 medicines of that, and then a similar second patient comes in and I also do the exact same thing, but both of them will have variable response.
Yeah.
Why is that? There is a component of faith.
Right.
There's a component of belief.
Yeah.
There's a component of an art, right? And that's why medicine also becomes a little bit of an art, or neurology itself becomes a little bit of an art.
Yeah.
So going back to the entire this of what would I take away from any of these therapies which are there, my most eminent response to this would be, please try and then say, oh, I dump it,
Yeah,
or I accept it, you know, and see it for yourself.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, exactly. And I completely agree to your point that these kind of things like taking a plant medicine or any external substances will take you only a certain point. What is more sustainable and more scalable is meditation.
Is
Because-
your own sadhana or your
Yeah.
own practice, right?
Yeah.
Your consistent practice. Now, once you understand your mind, now, for example, for me, breathing comes very naturally, or mantra comes very naturally. Every prakriti, every person has a different nature. So depending, some people are talkers, you know, then in that case, they cannot meditate. They want to chant. Okay, fine. Then chanting is for you. Some people would just like to close eyes and sit. In my family, I have all the samples, you know. So my mom would like to just sit. So meditation is for her. I'm a talker, so I like chanting. And chanting out loud has even better benefits than chanting in the mind.
Yeah.
So manas chanting or behind the mind. So pick up something which is for you. And what happens is, if you have done consistently enough, you will understand what changes are happening. For me, for example, when I started to chant very seriously or started to do this breathing practice, I could see that triggers were the same. I was not able to change the triggers. You know, the situations remained the same. The triggers came exactly the same way, but my reaction changed to response.
Yeah.
The way I used to get before disturbed or perturbed by it, that changed. And the way my ideas came in, the way people started to join hands in the work that we are doing just changed dramatically. Because now, you know, your prefrontal cortex is opened up. We will not go into the energy science. I think that was not the purpose of the topic today. But I'm also a great fan of this electromagnetic field, just because we don't see it. And I give a very, very simple example, you know. I know the star is shining, right? And millions of years away. But do we see the light? We don't see the light of the star. We see the star because there is no medium. Just because I don't have the limited sense, I don't have an advanced senses to watch that electromagnetic field, I should not discard it, you know. So I would possibly one of those few allopathic practitioners who also likes to talk about the energy body, who likes to talk about the electromagnetic field, you know. Even if I'm moving my hand, I'm already generating some electromagnetic force. We know that Earth also has its own force. In fact, since I'm on the Earth, let me share a very beautiful thing which I just read recently. And that is something spectacular to understand. Earth has certain fixed frequencies, right? We call it, it's about 7.8. Somebody says 7.2. But anyways, we know that it's between 7 and 8. Now, when we do grounding, which means I just walk barefoot, I walk on the seashore, or I walk on the grass, I am connecting to that, and it's called shamanic frequency.
Yeah.
I'm connecting to that Earth's frequency. What is happening? My brain is generating that same 7 to 8, and which is nothing but alpha. So simply by grounding, I'm relaxing myself. I go to nature and I feel calm. I feel blissful. Why? Because I'm generating automatically, without efforts, this alpha.
Yeah.
In my home, with all the distractions and all the social media and all, if I try to close my eyes, in 2 minutes, my brain will say, oh, let me just watch the email. Let me do this, you know.
Yeah.
So that is the beauty of each of the practice that we have or we do.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, as you rightly said, why am I doing this? What am I supposed to be doing? How do I do? Who is the right person who will let me to do this?
Correct.
And I think problems can be solved. And that is the mission, I would say, the purpose of my life.
Yeah.
I have gone through certain pain. I have seen my people going through pain. I've seen patients going through pain. If by simple practices, and these are all cheap practices,
Yeah.
right? These are all not expensive practices. if we integrate these practices scientifically into our daily life, into our routines, we can make a healthy society.
Yeah.
And a healthy nation.
Definitely, yes.
And a healthy world.
Exactly. So I think, I mean, after my experience with ayahuasca, the people, the question that I asked in one of the sharing sessions is, why can't 7.5 billion people do this? Because the way after the ceremony they start calling us, we are light workers, because we have almost become healers. So don't you think that we need more healers in today's world?
See, I think what we need is people who understand and empathize and learn to do something for themselves. Let's put it that way. You know, we all have this beautiful chemistry. It's all about activating this inner chemistry, the inner balance, the sympathetic, parasympathetic. It's all about doing it together as well. Now, for example, few people chanting versus few people meditating, or one or two doing, there's a huge electromagnetic change also which is happening. The electromagnetic frequency is different. Joe Dispenza has also shown it, and a couple of others, that when chanting is done with together so many people, there's a very different electromagnetic field which is generated. So what is wrong in doing any of this, which is very safe, which is super easy to do, I would say? You know, I mean, of course, easy once it's taught. That is true, but it should be done.
Yeah. So as a parting shot, what do you like to say to the audience?
Since we are on the topic of healing, you know, I often say this: I am a healer and I'm not a dealer. and which is to a point that, you know, yes, we will keep having all the medications and the science will keep advancing. We will treat new problems. We will have, let's say, oncology. I mean, look at cancer science. It has changed the way we look at the entire field, right? So this will keep happening, but healing will always remain fundamental. If I have a tree and I cut a few branches and I put a fruit from here to there, all I did was superficially made the tree look better, or, you know, feel better. But what I need to do is go to the root. And if I as a doctor, I as a healer is trying to give you those keys, because breathing, chanting, meditation are those inner keys, which is unlocking that healthy secrets, or it's unlocking that healthy brain, then my job as a doctor or as a healer is done.
So I think, because most of the hospitals, I mean, I fear going to the hospitals or to the doctor, because that's what I fear. I think you said it in a very, very hard-hitting way, that they behave like dealers, because they try to sell the medicine in which doesn't even suit me. They don't even ask what will suit me and all that, and they just give a, you know, generic medicine which doesn't suit me at all. So that's why I fear mostly going to the doctors.
But it's a balance, right?
It's a balance.
I mean, if my appendix is rupturing, I would definitely need a doctor, right? It's a balance, and every single person should weigh the pros and cons, should understand their health, should understand the lifestyle, what is required. In today's time, I think all the stresses, all the burnouts, everything what we are struggling is only because of the borrowed lifestyle that we have.
Right.
Our original ancient Indian, or for that matter, Red Indians, we were talking about that early on, right? The ancient people understood the physiology so well, and their every single practice, right from waking up early at 4 o'clock, to right from having the evening practice, to right from even, you know, serving the food with that prayers, making the frequency of the food better for you, every single thing was scientific. So I think let's be scientific. Let's value and acknowledge and honor that we are born in such wonderful places where we have this beautiful ancient traditions to take home, and every single person remains healthy. I think sarve bhavantu sukhinah.
Wow. I have another question to ask you. You're talking as a doctor, as a neurologist, you're talking ancient wisdom. Doesn't your medical fraternity troll you for this?
End of the day, what matters is patient's health. End of the matter, what matters is your health. You know, so it's everybody's health what matters to me. So yes, we will have evidence going back and forth. There will be some debates. There will be some criticisms. There will be some favorable outputs as well. But we have to keep talking these dialogues. Keep putting forth whatever we see in our labs or whatever other people see in their labs. I think at certain point, integrative medicine is only the way forwards.
Wow, that reminds me of Dr. Hegde, who keeps talking about this modern medicine has to be a mix of every ancient wisdom and as well as
Absolutely.
the evidence based medicine that we have today.
Absolutely.
Do you endorse that?
100%. It should be evidence medicine, it should be experience medicine, and integrative medicine.
Wow. Okay, that's wonderful, and I think we have come to the wonderful conclusion on that.
Just before we conclude, I am going to show
Sure, yeah.
yes, my book, which is the latest book. A little different from what I was telling, but very interesting from the point of view of the brain. This is available on Amazon and multiple other channels. It is called Future Ready Now. It is talking about how the brain, understanding the brain, can lead you to take decisions for designing your life. Right from career to choose, to profession, to midlife crisis, to relationship, to partners, etc., all based on how you're thinking. So it's a great read, and reviews are welcome, by the way, So I'm a very, very open person, and I love to grow my own brain as well and other people's brains. So please read and review it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm sure we will put the link for the book in the description, and I'm sure it will elevate the collective consciousness of people.
Absolutely. And if still any doubts are there, anything is there, I think Praveen would be happy to also put www.Dr.Sweta.com. We are always available. We are more than happy to answer any individual questions also that you have. As I said, my vision of the lab, and I thank all the people behind the scenes. They are not here today, but they have been doing some fantastic work at the lab, and we live in Dubai, UAE, to do all this what we are doing. So I thank each of them, and I thank all of you for this patient listening as well.
Thank you so much.